All right.
It's two to tango.
Let's get episode 1 started here of Jared and Mike Tell It Right.
Is it really right, or is it just our opinions?
It's definitely our opinions.
Which our opinions are
right.
Yes.
Right.
So I guess it's fitting.
So today's topic is going to be, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? So
Yes.
let me pull up my notes here.
I mean, it is. So the show's over. It's done.
Show's over.
It just is.
What do you think makes a Christmas movie, though? Just off your...
I mean, I suppose it's debatable, but usually, I mean, just like any other movie, obviously you have to have, a protagonist, antagonist, some type of issue, and then a triumph in the end, right?
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the play ball?
Die Hard being an action video movie, I mean, it's obviously got those elements of a hero story. Yeah, so if we compare that to a Christmas story, really the only added features to that is just like Christmas spirit, like setting. I guess then we get into family. There's usually hope of making it to the end. But yeah, no, just like in the hero story, there's redemption. There's that we've made it to the end. We've accepted things. We did things we didn't want to do, but we did it.
I mean, that's truly every movie. I mean, if a movie is trying to make a point, right? Yeah, maybe somebody was, selfish at first, and at the end they did a selfless thing. Yeah, there's always that cause and reaction, but that there's that, an issue that's solved or a problem that needs to be solved, and it's the transition of how that's fixed is where you get to that point. No matter what you're talking about, any movie, right? If you didn't have that, if there was no conflict or anything, then you would not have it would be the most boring ass movie ever. You'd just be sitting there like, oh, everything was happy for this entire time. Like, that shit doesn't happen. So then, since that is every movie, the only thing that's making a Christmas movie Christmas is the fact that Christmas is involved in the movie.
Exactly. So exactly. No, it's that's where you're right. Yeah. And that's, I mean, Die Hard obviously is a Christmas movie. Here's a caveat though I kind of want to throw in there, because doing some research on this, one thing came up is, they don't use the word villain, but they use the word a Grinch or a Scrooge, but they refer to it kind of as a villain, when it comes to Die Hard. But if we look at Grinch or Scrooge, okay, yes, they started off as, I guess, assholes or bad characters,
Mhm.
and then as they go on, they go on through their thing, they end up redeeming themselves at the end and becoming, a better person. So they're technically not bad guys in a way. Whereas Hans Gruber is a bad guy. As you can see right behind you, he blew up the top of the building.
Nakatomi Tower.
But yeah, if we want to look at those elements, I mean, really it's setting family, magic or Christmas spirit, hope, and then the villain, or, I mean, but
hear me out though. Hear me out right here. What if, and just imagine this, the Grinch-like person was actually Bruce Willis, and how he saved the day at the end, even though it was like his wife that he's again, having issues with. So his issue, he is the Grinch, and it transformed to the hero at the end. And Hans Gruber is just an additional icing on the cake as a villain to the Grinch.
I like that. I agree 100%, because that's exactly what happens to Grinch or Scrooge. They literally think everything's all right. They go through and end up either wanting something. And that's John McClane wants his wife to come back home. That's the big thing for him, where she wants his respect for her job, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
That's where the redemption is in Die Hard, is where he finally realizes that, and he's pulling glass out of his feet while he's realizing that.
Yes.
Okay, John McClane's our Grinch or our Scrooge.
Mhm.
And then Hans Gruber, or did I just say
Gruber.
Gruber?
Yeah, he's a fish. It's all right.
No. So what's funny about that is there is this episode of Community, and the guy walks in and he goes, "This is Christmas. Like, this is boring." And he's like, "Oh, I thought we could have done Die Hard at a restaurant this year." And he's like, "There's this place called Nakatomi Sushi. They got a Hans Gruber that's to die for." So I kind of had that in my head. We're gonna call him Hans Gruber for the rest of the night.
I'm down.
You're done?
No, I'm down with that.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll agree with that. I want to make a quick point too.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, maybe snow insinuates Christmas, but the funny part is, like, and I don't know if we take it for granted, but there's a lot of places that don't get snow at all.
You're right.
And like, so snow has, to us, snow has like a Christmas feel to it, but you can't say 100% of people care about snow because they don't even witness what snow is.
No, but that's a good point. No, I mean, so you remember at the end of the movie, him and Holly are walking out of the building and all the papers are falling down?
Yes.
Like, what's kind of funny about that is there's your snow, baby, right there. That's your snow. Like,
Yeah.
being in California, obviously it doesn't snow, but that's where the next, that's like another Christmas feel though. I mean, some people, yeah, snow, but I mean, I agree with you. It doesn't have to have snow, because you got people that live in Hawaii, unless they just go trek up to the mountains and celebrate Christmas, they don't really, got snow, or South America, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's settled. I think definitely Die Hard's got the setting.
I mean, right there, that tells you that even though it wasn't meant, let's say it's not meant to be a Christmas movie, the elements that it has in there of like, it's a white Christmas or whatever, at the end of the movie, it's snowing, or, now we're seeing that kind of idea brought into the movie where it's the end of the movie and shit's falling down. It looks like snow. It gives you that element without the true element being there.
Right. And I mean, Home Alone at the end, they call that the money shot when the snow comes down on Christmas Day.
You gotta have a money shot.
And that's another thing too. Like, nobody cares about Christmas Day. Christmas Day is, once it's here, it's like a minute and the movie's over.
Yeah.
There's never really a movie that really cares too much about Christmas Day. I'll write it, I'll put it out there, but no one's gonna watch it. You know what I mean? So I want to change the dynamic here. Enough with going over these elements, because we kind of already went over them. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to Die Hard being a Christmas movie, it is.
There's no doubt.
What's that?
There's no doubt in my mind.
Right. And I think really the main thing is, it doesn't really matter what these elements are. I mean, at first I thought they really had something to do with it, but they really don't. It's just that it is the hero story kind of cloaked like with, it's just the hero story themed Christmas.
Yes.
And so really any movie that you sit there and say isn't a Christmas movie, if it has the theme in there, I mean, it's a Christmas movie at the end of the day, because it's still going to follow, because it doesn't matter what the movie is. They all follow the hero plot.
Yes.
And I mean, almost in a way, even documentaries do, you know, because you still got your characters, you still got a protagonist. Sometimes there is an antagonist, you know. I mean, like if you get into some of these documentaries that talk about business or even crime, you know what I mean? But that's kind of how people are engaged. You know, they want to see this. Wow, this turned from a Die Hard discussion to just,
Movies.
yeah, in
In
general.
general.
In general.
But explaining movies in general helps determine why.
Right. So that's where I'm at with Die Hard being a Christmas movie. It is. But Die Hard 2? No,
No.
definitely not. And after that, no.
Timothy Oliphant.
Oliphant.
Yeah.
Deadwood.
That's what I mean, you, not to get off track, but I mean, you even said it, like The Mandalorian is a spaghetti Western.
Oh yeah.
Like
Hell yeah.
hardcore. You know
Oh,
what I find
yeah.
weird, and I keep on mentioning it, and I always tell people about it, is it Jon Favreau? Like, that dude makes all these Marvel movies and the movies that we like, all the Star Wars stuff now.
Uh-huh.
And that guy started, like, you remember the movie The Replacements, the football movie with Keanu Reeves?
Dude, no, he goes even further.
Yeah, he was
There's
like
the
in
movie with Vince
Swingers.
Vaughn. Yeah.
Swingers. Or
Is it
yeah,
Swingers
Swingers.
or is it Players? No, it's Swingers.
Swingers. Yeah, back with Vince Vaughn back in the day.
Yeah, dude, and he was like, he was a different person. He was still like, he was bulkier, but way thinner, totally different
Oh
look.
yeah. Now
He's
he looks like
played
an old
in
Jewish man.
I'm just trying to think. There was like another movie he played in. Like, I keep like putting him into like, remember Biodome with Pauly Shore? Remember his outfit?
Pauly Shore. Yeah.
I just like keep seeing Jon Favreau and Pauly Shore's clothes from that movie, but it's not. No, did he played in some college movie? I think with Jeremy Piven. That, yeah, dude. We are getting off track here, but it's a podcast. Doesn't have to stay on track here.
All right, we're gonna have to look this up. He's in Rudy, the football movie.
Yes,
Rudy.
that's
Yes.
right. He was in Rudy.
He wrote the script for Swingers.
Right. I knew that. Yeah. I thought he directed it too.
Probably.
Because I think that's more of an independent film.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Just imagine like coming from nothing.
Yeah. I kind of want to see this PCU movie again. I remember seeing this like as a kid and like, oh yeah, he had dreadlocks. Jon Favreau did. David Spade plays in it. He's like even younger than he was from Tommy Boy. So you barely recognize him.
All
All
right,
right.
let's get back to the. I just find that extremely interesting about him because I knew nothing about him other than the movies that I see him in. And I
Yeah.
always thought he was just like a co-star in a ton of movies, and then all of a sudden, this dude's fucking doing all the Marvel and Star Wars shit.
One
and
more
he's doing
note.
an amazing job. Like he must be a fanboy too at the same time, because like for the type of Star Wars that he's producing and
Yeah.
like the things that he's implementing into there, where he's like got a different director every episode.
I want to know like how they made these costumes back in the day, like on Star Wars without like 3D printers
Foam and fiberglass.
and then make molding or
Yeah,
moldings
like
out of them.
molds. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I really want to know, like, how is that how they made their models then? Like their model cities, like when they would fly
Probably
over, like,
clay.
no, those all can't be made out of clay. Or see, did they have like CNC back then?
No, they didn't have computers, dude.
Yeah, they did. They
In
just weren't.
1978,
Yeah, I mean, George Lucas, that's where the
he didn't have a
Pixar.
CNC machine in 19.
No, he didn't have a CNC machine, but he definitely had computers that they were doing a lot of this stuff with. It just wasn't like obviously what we got now, but I mean, they were built, so I'm pretty sure George Lucas, there's this old documentary about Pixar, and George Lucas actually, so you know how Pixar really got its name?
Hmm.
It's a machine. It's a computer that George Lucas built. It was like the Pixar 5000 or something like that. They were planning on using it for Star Wars. It had certain capabilities,
Yeah.
you know, certain processing speeds and whatnot. And he just he never used it for Star Wars. And so he ended up giving it to these guys who were trying to, because they ended up, so there's this group of guys that they started off with Disney as animators, and they were doing the, you know, obviously back then it was drawing and painting and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And so they started getting into computers though, because there was at that point in time in like the late 70s, early 80s, where all these new graphics, they were using blue screens and stuff and really improving on this. So they were trying to kind of get into that, and then they scared a lot of people at Disney. So Disney
Mhm.
had them fired. Said, no, we're not conforming to that. We're not going to be getting into that, because a bunch of people that were drawing everything, they were just like, dude, we're going to lose our jobs over this, you know, if they start, you know, using these computers and stuff. So whatever. So those guys lost their jobs, and then George Lucas picked them up. And they worked for George Lucas doing effects in the background. And then I guess what happened was George Lucas ran out of money. And so these guys, he kind of had to let these guys go. And they were telling George, like, you know, I think the whole point why he brought him on is because they had an envision on doing something. And I think, you know, Pixar was the envision, like what it became today. I forget the exact story, but he said, I'll help you guys out, you know, I'll, you know, hook you up with this computer, and you guys can, you know, you just have to find your own money to run your operations. And then I don't know, somewhere down the line, Steve Jobs ended up jumping in on that, because he had gotten fired from Apple and was doing his own thing. And so he made some investments and yeah, bought Disney or bought Pixar, and then sold it for big monies to Disney. But
Yeah,
no,
but nonetheless, I mean,
the Pixar story is an interesting one, but I think Star Wars behind the scenes, like, that is some of the coolest stuff. I know, I mean, like they do a lot of clay models and stuff, but I always wondered, how did they build like how did they make like the Death Star and all that? Like, what did they use foam or did they use plastic? And that's what I want to know, because I want to make shit like that and then take a camera and make it look like you're in like some huge, you know, thing. Like, I seriously think the coolest thing ever is the scene where Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope, where he comes to lower the Death Star shields and whatnot. Like, so when you see that scene, you see him walking and there's an endless pit below him and all this crap, right? But in reality, it's not a blue screen or anything like that, but it is a room and it's only a 3-foot drop off. So if he really did fall, he wouldn't be going anywhere. But what they did was they took a piece of glass and they painted that scenery on there, and then they left that part open. So then when the camera hit and the lights hit it all, it looked like Obi-Wan was walking through this crazy,
Endless pit.
yeah. And if he made one wrong move, like, and think about that, like, you're making that movie and like, dude, we got to do something to make this look dangerous, and okay, let's do this. And then you see the reaction of the people, like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't fall. And it's just like, dude, I did that. I made that illusion. Like, that's pretty cool. And like, now with computers, it's a lot easier. But I mean, I still think there's an art to it, regardless.
You watch the Marvel movies, right?
Oh yeah.
Like Infinity War and Endgame.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing real in any of those movies.
No.
There's not one real thing. Like even the like pretend armor on Robert Downey Jr. is one of those foam ball like suits with like a headset.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the realest thing you ever that you're seeing are the cosplay people. Like, that's the realest suit ever really made, or whatever marketing that was put out where somebody's dressed up in that suit. Like, no, it is crazy how those characters never really actually wear the suit anymore. Like, I tell you what though, I hate to be the Hulk. I think that's the worst character to be, just because I mean, like, all he wore was especially in that last one where his whole character was in the Hulk form, where he pretty much wore like a suit with cameras at all ends watching
Yeah.
his facial features, and so then they can take that and layer it onto the Hulk's body
Yeah.
and make it look
So like
like,
he's acting, but
yeah.
they're just putting it into another. It's like his avatar.
Yeah. And no, I mean, like, I think there's still like, I'm not going to say, I'm not saying like, we need to stop CGI. I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think that sucks. You have to wear that all day. You know what I mean?
Okay, the movie um Avatar.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I mean those people are just running around with their fucking suits on. There's nothing real in that movie except for when you see Sigourney Weaver die and there's a blue hand on her.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Sigourney Weaver, and ruining all of these movies. You know what my absolute favorite movie is? Aliens. Second in the series, Aliens. There's the movie
You know,
Alien.
I guess,
Aliens.
what's his face?
James Cameron.
Yeah, James Cameron. That's another movie, like, he had to build like technology for Avatar. Apparently he's had Avatar in his head for many, many years, or some kind of adaptation of it. And I remember when it came out, he said we finally built the technology to do this movie or something like that. So it's pretty crazy when movie sets are creating technology so they can, entertain us. Entertain.
It's all that it is. It's just, how do you keep our stupid faces busy as long as possible?
Yeah.
It's like people are making money off of YouTube. How many views, how many people watch you? We'll pay you money because you're bringing people to our site.
Yeah.
Like, we live in an age where people like just talk on podcasts and make money from it.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely. It's just like, like, I want to know about this Mike Zero guy. I want to know how much he makes. You ever watch him on YouTube?
Fuck is Mike Zero?
Mike Zero. So Mike Zero is a Star Wars analyst guy.
Fuck that guy.
No, I mean, I get a lot of information from him. He has updates all the time. Like what's going on with like just in general, like that Kathleen Kennedy lady. Yeah, I always hear stuff
Fuck that
about.
lady, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, like what's her deal? She's been like in charge of that forever. And she's just been like she wants to be in the movie apparently, or so she's gonna be in the Acolyte series.
Yeah, because she's a bitch.
Yeah,
Listen,
she's the one that fired Gina. Uh, what's her face? Gina whatever.
Regina
Carano.
Hurts.
Gina Carano.
Regina Hurts.
Yeah, Gina Hurts. Gina Carano though.
Yeah, no. So what the problem with that lady is that she's a bitch. And
Yeah.
secondly, it's that she made 3 movies that were just absolute garbage and tried to put them out there to a newer generation. And everybody that knows Star Wars
Yeah.
despises them. But it just, for the sheer nostalgia, you have to watch them. Right.
Right.
But at the end of the day, she makes shit. And then she tries to blame it on that there's no good content to go off of when there's a bazillion books and novels and comics and all this
Yeah,
and that she could use as
that
a
was
movie background.
that was something I thought I heard. Yeah, like there was supposed to be a deal for all the books. There was like so there was supposed to be like a series that would or not they weren't going to be shows, but they were going to be a series of movies, and they were supposed to go off these books that were written in they were written in the 90s or the late 80s or something like that. But then there was something like where I thought George Lucas kind of got involved, and he didn't want to necessarily see, I guess, what they call canon.
Yeah.
You know,
There's canon and there's legend.
yeah. I don't get what that all means.
Canon just basically means that it is like written in stone that that's a Star Wars thing.
I mean,
Right? Like,
do you use the term canon for other things, or is this just with Star Wars?
I think it,
Or is there
a
like a
lot of,
Marvel canon?
yeah, it'd be like a canon for like nerd shit. It's just a way of grouping things as this is like set in stone and is law. And these
Yeah.
are things that people made up in other novels. It isn't exactly canon. Canon means
Right.
that like Boba Fett is in this movie and this is where he comes from and this is what he does. And like that's the law. This is like conjecture. Like we're gonna make up a story about Star Wars and maybe people believe it, but it's not set in stone like canon.
You know what I think I want to start doing is I want to start buying the Star
Shit in
Wars
your pants.
comic. Yeah, I want to shit my pants. No, I want to start buying the Star Wars comics because you know what? So I thought there was another debate about that where they didn't really want to get canon mixed up with the comics, but the comics are telling, I mean, obviously they're made up, but they're telling some good stories now. Like,
I would, so one of the things that, because everybody knows Star Wars, right?
yeah,
First Star Wars from 1978 was A New Hope, and it was and this is what always fucks with people that have no idea what Star Wars is, when you say the first movie ever made is the 4th movie in the installment.
Right.
in the Skywalker saga, if you will. Right. Because you got,
Right.
the prequels, 1, 2, 3, then you have 4, A New Hope, 5, 6, and then you have all those garbage ones after.
And that was another thing too. George Lucas was never on backstory, so that's kind of why you start at A New Hope.
Yeah. But I mean, The New Hope is really where it's at. But
Yeah.
absolutely, actually, one of my favorite movies is Revenge of the Sith, where we learn or see how Anakin Skywalker turns into Darth Vader. If you want to, you should watch the Clone Wars and like Rebels and Bad Batch. I like it because it's that period of time between when Anakin turned into Darth Vader and before his Luke Skywalker. Like Anakin or Darth Vader was going around murdering Jedis around the world, and like there's all this like sabotage and all this and that, and like how there's all kinds of crazy shit. You gotta watch that.
I've watched a few
Clone Wars is
episodes
good.
of it.
Clone Wars is good.
Yeah, I've watched a few episodes of the Rebels. I haven't really gotten too into it. I really did get into the Bad Batch. I thought that was an interesting, clone troopers that start, rebelling. But actually, so this was brought up on one of those Star Wars YouTubes I watched, or yeah. And I guess Darth Vader at one time, he was offered a new suit, one that was going to be more like flexible and handle his pain better and stuff like that. Apparently the suit that he was wearing like inflicted incredible pain among him and all this.
Yeah.
And then
that's
on
how he
top
kept
of
him
it,
evil.
right. Then on top of it, he didn't have like he had to change his whole fighting style apparently. Like obviously, when he was Anakin, he fought one way, but then now that he's got all these robotic limbs and crap like that, and then on top of it, the way his suit, it's not as like flexible and stuff. And yeah, so basically he was just pretty stiff the whole time. And I guess that's how it reflects in a lot of the videos. Except the more recent ones. The more recent ones, they give him more mobility and it kind of makes it look fake. But then also at the same time, it's like it's kind of cool because you're like, whoa, he's moving pretty quick, you know.
The absolute best scene is the end of Rogue One, when it's the end of the hallway and the lightsaber lights up, and like then he just goes to town, and like he's like force choking people, throwing them into the ceiling, and zap, fucking
Right, like you would
insane.
never get that in A New Hope or those first three, but like, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like that kind of goes against what this whole video is saying about like what that suit was doing to him. Like it was almost like he was kind of like a freaking samurai ninja or whatever right there.
Yes.
Like, but that's not really Darth Vader. Well, and maybe
But he
that's
didn't.
maybe that's the backstory you just don't see, and then you see it in Rogue One.
Yes, and that's what I was sure. Like that was one of the coolest.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say that Rogue One is one of my favorite Star Wars, probably in the top 3.
Yeah.
Because Rogue One.
I'm gonna write this down for another discussion. No, what I'm saying, we're gonna get into another discussion in another episode here. I want to talk about this more in depth with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
So Rogue One was a completely different vibe than every other Star Wars movie. It was dark. It was gritty. There was no main character from any of the other movies in it. It was it was like the Star Wars universe, but had nothing to do with any of the other Star Wars except for how the rebels got the plans to the Death Star
Yeah.
to Princess Leia, and that's entail where it starts into on A New Hope. So like that movie was just, I loved it. It just, like I said, just grittier, less that general Star Wars, and just like
Yeah.
people died. You watch people get shot for like espionage and that type of thing. That you weren't, the original Star Wars was like straightforward, like hero villain, hero villain. This is like getting into that line of where you're a spy and you have to do things
Yeah.
that you don't want to do. You
Now,
know,
who was
for
behind that video? Was that a Kathleen
I don't
Kennedy?
know. I mean, that was like 2016.
Well,
So it
she's
might
been
have
in
been that big.
charge for a long time.
Either way, I think that was a different director.
Well, right.
But
Well, that's the thing. She fires directors like crazy. Like a lot of these video movies, like they have multiple directors on them. She just like constantly fires directors.
let's see. I'll pull it up here.
But no, what do you think? How do you feel about this whole Andor that they want to make?
That's what I want to see. That's like the spy Star Wars stuff. Because that's what Rogue One was.
Yeah,
It was Andor, that guy that was spying and going around for the rebellion,
right.
and doing all that espionage. It'll be like a Star Wars 007.
Yeah,
Just not as fancy, right?
I was just thinking that. Yeah, so you got your Mandalorian, which is your Western. I mean, yeah, you got your Mandalorian, that's your Western. You got your
Real
Rogue
quick, there's like
One.
nobody that that worked on this. Garth
Yeah,
Edwards, you directed it.
he was
Garth,
probably because there was 5 other directors before him. I
he
think
did
that,
terrible movies.
so he probably did. He probably,
Godzilla.
that's what it sounds like is like she hired like there would be one good director in the beginning, and then they'd end up getting fired, and then there'd be a line of, I don't know, and there was something about, yeah, firing people and not giving them credit too.
Yeah, he has had a interesting. He's only directed Rogue One. Oh wait, no, let's see here. True Love, Godzilla, Monsters, Factory Farm, Heroes and Villains, Episode 1.
But then
Yeah, it's just Rogue One. He hasn't done any but I love that movie.
well, anyways, so yeah, Rogue One is like 007, and then Mandalorian is like a Western. And then what? The rest of the Star Wars saga is like knights and stuff. That's what I got that feeling kind of from like the second installment or the first 3 movies. Meaning when I mean the first 3, like episode 1, 2, and 3.
With Qui-Gon and all that. Is he your favorite? I feel like he's your favorite.
Qui-Gon, yes. He's an interesting Jedi, and like he kind of goes against the Jedi Order, but for the greater good. And that's kind of like, I think that's what you're gonna find out about Yoda too. What they're trying to like put toward, like, so there's supposed to be this whole Yoda series coming up too, or something like that, where you're gonna find out like Yoda like did some dealings with the dark side, but in order to be a better Jedi, and it's not, and it comes down to his type of race, how they're able to handle this type of crap, which is why he's able to do this.
Is that why Grogu is able to like force choke those guys and throw them around?
You know what? So that might actually come up. So like, yeah, you kind of see Grogu doing that and you're like, dude, he's corrupted. Like he's another Anakin on the way, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, yeah, when I heard this story about how Yoda, he had some kind of, and this is apparently what we're gonna learn in this upcoming Yoda series whenever that happens, or whatever, or movie or series, whatever. But like it's basically like, yeah, he goes on to like some kind of like journey or some kind of walkabout thing where he's, yeah, he deals with the dark side and like, all right, but Yoda does some kind of like, it's not like he does some kind of spiritual thing that's like really fucking dark. Yeah, and like no normal person, like no normal Jedi is gonna really be able to go through this. Like I think some have tried and then end up falling to the dark side. But Yoda, there's something about his race that's just like, it's not like it's not like humans or like some of the other races that are there. They're like, they can handle things that like others can't. So that's why he is kind of like one of the strongest Jedis out there, is because mainly because of, how he was born, But like Qui-Gon though, that's something I found out like when you start watching Star Wars again and you start hearing like, Obi-Wan kind of makes fun of him. Like, master, if you just kind of just bite your lip, you'll be on the board too. Like, that's the thing about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was always a mature, like he kind of like, Obi-Wan is
He was
obviously,
naive. He was naive at the beginning,
yes.
and then he learned the Force more as he became older, only to find out that he's been naive the entire time, and he trained the worst Sith Lord imaginable, personally, even after he
Yeah.
was instructed not to by the Jedi.
But that's,
And
hold on. I mean, I wouldn't call,
he had an affair with the leader of Mandalore
Mother
and the
Mary.
clone. Um, yes, but no.
Queen of Mandalore, Mother Mary,
Yes.
Mother of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, her
Birthdays.
too.
It's birthdays this week.
He's got those things. What do you call them? Cum
Eggs.
gutters. Is it like, but whose is it? Like your own or somebody else's? Like, and where is it guttering to?
Oh, freaking Morty. What the hell were we talking about? Star Wars.
Shut the fuck up, Michael. You're the only one that likes to fuck that thing. Yeah, at least I'm not in the ship play.
My
I forgot what the fuck we were. Obi-Wan.
Mandalore, Mother Mary
Yeah.
of Mandalore.
Okay, but yeah. So Obi-Wan
Yeah.
has like the Queen of Mandalore. He like gets it on with her and has a child. Or is what is like a conspiracy thing that his kid is her child, and then he ends up going to the academy, some academy, and he's got force abilities, but he's a Mandalorian. And you learn about you got to watch the Clone Wars. You learn about the Death Watch. Like the Clone Wars is mostly geared on Mandalore.
Yeah.
Well, like the very
I mean,
last thing that you learn about
Obi-Wan,
Darth Maul still being alive.
yeah. Well, the upcoming Obi-Wan, I know we're definitely going to learn. So my understanding is it's not going to really be based on Tatooine. You're probably going to get that in the first episode, and then it's probably going to be him outside, because the whole idea, I guess, is like he's going to be hunted, because that's when the Inquisitor, he's from he's from Rebels, right? The Inquisitor.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's gonna, I believe the Inquisitor is gonna be in this, or you're just gonna see his army go after Obi-Wan. And so he can't be, if he's gonna protect Luke, he can't be bringing that guff to Tatooine. So you're probably gonna see like his journey is gonna take him off of Tatooine, and then he'll be probably coming back at the end of every season,
Beaten off.
or Luke's gonna get kidnapped in one of them. You know,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for that one. But we have earlier than that in 10 days, 11 days,
yeah.
we have the book of Boba Fett.
You know what? I want to talk about that real quick. How Boba Fett originally was going to be I forget what it was called.
A super stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, there's this whole story of Mandalore right now. Just imagine if they went that direction. There'd be no Mandalorians. It would all be super soldiers. That's what
Well,
that would be. And it wouldn't be that same color either, too. It
You
would
have to
be
know, like,
white.
even the background that he comes from in general.
Yeah.
Because
that's-
like, he technically isn't even Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's true. No, I mean, he's like
He's a clone of his father.
he's
that
like
was
he's like
Mandalorian.
Luke Skywalker, though, kind of. Think about it. Luke Skywalker, that's the thing. Like, you get into the Old Republic, series, and like they like there's all this training that goes into being a Jedi. Being a Jedi is a life commitment, like it's from the moment you're, like 12 months old or something to whatever, until you're dead. But like, I guess like what I'm trying to say is like with Luke Skywalker, like it was really, I mean, if there was ever a management fast track, like he was on it. Like he literally, I mean, I guess that's the thing too. I mean, is what we watch in those three, movies, what's the time period? Is there a big time period between them all, or is it literally one after another within,
In the first three,
yeah,
the first three are like, there's the first one, and then there's like 10 years, something like that. 10
yeah,
years between the episode 1 and episode 2. No, probably more. Probably like 12 or 13 years.
right,
Because Anakin Skywalker is all of a sudden a kid guy, and if he was like 8 in the
yeah,
first one, so I figure like 10 to 12 years. So he's like 18 to 20 years old.
right,
And then in the third movie, it's like a 3-year gap between the second and third. And then it's a 16 or like a almost a 20-year gap from the third to the fourth.
yeah.
That's where Rogue One comes in. It's like a year before A New Hope, or not even a year, but it's like where it follows up.
No, right, but yeah, I guess what I'm trying to, like, I'm wondering is like, is it like a 5-year span? Like when you look at A New Hope to the Return of the Jedi. Otherwise, it feels like it's
No,
like 3 months.
it's not that. It's not that short. I think it's like a 3-year span, and then like from the second to the third or fourth to the fifth.
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry, fifth to sixth.
right.
From Empire to Jedi is like 4 years. So like from A
Oh,
New
okay.
Hope to Empire is like 3 or 4 years, and then the following is about 3 to 4 years. So probably like a 10
So
year.
Han Solo was in carbonite for years then?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean,
Now
there's a timeline.
that makes sense then, because that's what I never understood, was because it just seems like Luke never, it just doesn't seem like, it seems like he had like a week with Yoda and then he comes and sees Yoda and he dies. And it's like, but like apparently Luke learns like a ton of crap. Like he has a whole idea for the new, he knows how to bring back like the Jedi Order, that's the backstory that's like not explained. Like it just like makes it look like he was just given the force, like he was just given Jedi powers and like he wins the day, you know?
Yeah.
And then they completely screw him in the last set of movies. And hopefully he gets a regain and some, well, and that's what, yeah, there's an idea for like, I guess another, like a Luke Skywalker thing where they would bring him back and he would kind of get his, you know, yeah, they really just like slaughtered the original cast out of
Yeah.
all three of those movies. Well, Carrie Fisher died on her own, but that's a whole nother story. You know, Carrie Fisher's a crazy son of a bitch, right?
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't just Blues Brothers. I mean, she like, didn't she like crash her car into somebody's house or something? I thought she did like crazy stuff like that. Or was she just like into drugs?
Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. I think she like attacked people. Maybe not. But I guess she was a funny comedian.
So this is like the whole so they base everything on the before the Battle of Yavin, which is like
Right.
when the Death Star blew up
Uh-huh.
battle. So 19 years before that battle was, yeah, about 20 years was all of those.
The Fall of the Republic.
No, before that, like the first episode is like 20 years before. No, yeah, I'm sorry. You're right. 19 years ago was the Fall of the Republic.
Yeah. And then
Um,
about 20 years before that was when Anakin
41 BBY is Anakin Skywalker is conceived by midichlorians. And then 20 or 17 BBY, you've got Galen Erso is forced to work on the Death Star.
Yeah.
And then 13 years before that, Krennic tracks down Erso's family. And that's where Rogue One book begins. And then, yeah, 0 BBY. So the same year that Rogue One ends is where,
Yeah, A New Hope begins.
yeah, so 0 to 3 ABY after the Battle of Yavin. You got Darth Vader, Boba Fett, hunt down force-sensitive young pilot who blew up the Death Star. That's in the comic. 3 years after the Battle of Yavin, they evacuate Hoth. 4 years after that is when, okay, so a year after they get Han Solo.
So he's only in Carbonite for about a year.
Yeah. And then so that's 4 years after the Battle of Yavin. And then 9 years after the Battle of Yavin is The Mandalorian.
Now, when was like the that's another thing I wrote down is when was General Grievous's battle? Or no, what was the Geonosis? So you ever hear the story that Grievous was alive? Like Dooku had Grievous built or was being built at the Battle of Geonosis, and he released them, and you never see him because he goes into the catacombs with the rest of the Geonosins, and like, you know, they say like there was many Jedi that went down those catacombs and never made it out, and then you see in the, you know, what do you call it, the Revenge of the Sith, yeah, he pulls out all those lightsabers, and that's where they came from, was the catacombs of Geonosis. When he fought, he literally came out of nowhere. Like, I don't know like how Dooku built him so he could outsmart Jedi, but he does, and he ends up taking their lightsabers.
Some of those Jedis look like garbage compared to what we're used to. Like, look at the Battle of Geonosis.
Right.
They're like getting shot by robots and dropping.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, Star Wars is pretty interesting world.
Well, there's just so many different ways you could go with it.
Yeah.
You know. But if you haven't watched Clone Wars, I suggest watching it. It explains a shitload.
Yeah, I gotta watch. I gotta bust that out.
Thank you for listening to Jared and Mike Tell It Right podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. We hope to bring you more content here in the future, so please subscribe and stay tuned. Otherwise, hide some eggs, everybody.